quit smoking cigars. But anyway, I'd like to thank the organizers of the conference, Alice and Bill Levy. This is the first time they've done this. We appreciate you all coming, and I hope you get a lot of knowledge from it. And there's a lot of knowledge here. As you realize, and you probably heard me on Coast, this is the first time where we've ever had academic people in the science field, degreed individuals who are going to be on this stage at the same time with what we feel are very credible UFO researchers. Now, remember, you are free to think whatever you want to think. I don't know what they're going to say. No one knows what they're going to say. They may agree and they may disagree, or they may agree to disagree. We don't know. So for the first time, we're gonna listen to what they have to say. But if you've come here with preformed opinions, you're not going to get much out of this. So I want you to take some time and be very open-minded. Nobody is here to insult anybody's theories or destroy the fact. If somebody says UFOs don't exist, then that's their opinion. Now, we're going to have pairs of speakers. We were originally going to have 3, but unfortunately one came down with a medical problem from Australia, so there's only going to be 2 pairs. So did you all receive your program changes? Okay, so my good friend Horace Drew, the geneticist from Australia, won't be making it, and unfortunately Bill Burns won't be here. But we have 2 individuals to take their place, and what they're going to say is going to be very illuminating. Now, I want to make an announcement that Victoria Jack is here. Are you in the room, Vicki, yet? Okay, not yet. All right, she is here at the conference, and Victoria puts on the super spectacular San Francisco Bay Area UFO Expo every year, and this year the dates will be September the 27th and 28th. And you know, if you make a reservation in advance, if you live in the Bay Area or not in the Bay Area, it gets pretty packed. I believe there was 1,500 people there last year. So she puts on an excellent conference. I'll be there as a speaker. Thank you. And and I won't have to be you know, dedicating the time that I have put in this one. I'm not the conference organizer. I'm not responsible for anything except getting the speakers here and the program. So if you see me running around here trying to help with technical problems, of which I know absolutely nothing about, it's just because I want to lend a hand. Now, another thing that I have to ask of you, if you will, you're perfectly free to take pictures and record whatever you want, except during the time Dr. John Alexander is going to be talking. Please don't have any recording equipment of any kind. No video recording, no audio recording. We're going to be looking around the audience during the time that he's singing, and if we see somebody trying to record, unfortunately we're going to have to remove that person and take the recorder and get it back when this lecture is over. But I'm asking you to do that in deference for Dr. Alexander, because he has quite a history, and believe me, there's reasons for everything that happens here today. So we'll get right into it. Our first 2 speakers are basically going to talk on the subject of Planet X. And we have Mr. Jason Martell here, who has been talking about Planet X for some time. As a matter of fact, 15 years. Jason is one of the leading researchers and lecturers specializing in ancient civilization technologies. Mr. Martell's research has been featured worldwide on numerous television and radio networks, such as the Discovery Channel, History Channel, Sci-Fi, BBC, and many others. Most recently, Mr. Martell garnered worldwide attention by recreating a working model of one of science's most prolific mysteries, the Baghdad Battery, which you probably know about. This resides in the National Museum in Iraq. The discovery of this 2,000-year-old device suggests that modern-day battery was not invented in 1800 by Count Alessandro Volta, but was invented almost 2 centuries earlier. Mr. Martell's recreation was instrumental in proving the Baghdad battery was capable of generating current. Lecturing throughout the world, Mr. Martell has dedicated his studies to ancient artifacts and the Sumerian culture by using the latest in scientific research, supporting evidence and data. He corroborates his findings with principal scholars such as Zachariah Sitchin, naval astronomer Dr. Robert Harrington. Mr. Martell holds regular discussions with NASA scientists on the subject of Planet X, ancient astronauts, and structures on Mars. There's great evidence that has shown that in our solar system, the planet Nibiru passes through our solar system, and I think that if you listen to what he has to say and you know a little about this subject or you know a lot about it, you're going to be very well informed. And with Jason, we're going to have Dr. Tom Van Flanderen, who is a worldwide known astronomer. And Tom received his PhD degree in astronomy, specializing in celestial mechanics, the theory of orbits, from Yale University in 1969. He spent 21 years at the U.S. Naval Observatory in Washington, D.C., where he became the chief of Celestial Mechanics branch of the Nautical Almanac Office. During the past decade, Tom has been a research associate at the University of Maryland Physics Department in College Park, Maryland, and is a consultant to the Army Research Laboratory in Delphi, Maryland, working on improving the accuracy of the global positioning system. And you know, everybody that drives a car now knows what a global positioning system is. He and his wife moved to Seguin, I guess that's the way you pronounce it, in 2005 to be near their children and grandchildren, enjoying the beauty of the Pacific Northwest. In 1991, Tom helped form an astronomy research organization, Meta Research, to foster inquiry into worthy ideas otherwise supported solely because they conflict with mainstream theories in astronomy. Among the organization's significant contributions are evidence against the Big Bang theory and a better theory for the origin and nature of the universe, experimental evidence that gravity propagates much faster than light, and a new model for the origin and nature of gravity itself. The prediction of asteroid and comet satellites years before their discovery, new evidence favoring the exploded planet hypothesis, and new models for the origin of asteroids, comets, and the solar system. Strong hints that certain anomalies seen on Mars are not natural origin. So we've got two really fantastic speakers here, and I've let the paired speakers kind of choose their own way that they're going to do this. So what's going to happen is that the first speaker, who is going to be Jason Martell, is going to talk for 50 minutes. And then Tom will come up and talk to 50 minutes. That will leave 20 minutes, in which they'll both be up here together to do whatever it is they want to do. Throw bananas at each other, or answer questions, or run out the door. So now it gives me great pleasure to introduce my very dear friend, Jason Martell. Let's put your hands together.
Appreciate it, man.
Take it away.
I'll set it up over here. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. All right, give me a second here to flip on my laptop. joking around earlier and I said I call my PC my personal confuser. Okay, looks like I'm good. Hopefully my little clicker here is going to cooperate as well. Perfect. Okay. Thank you for coming to my lecture. Today I'm going to be discussing, as Roger eloquently put it, Planet X. And what I'm going to be focusing on is also some of the ancient connections through biblical ties to ancient languages and texts and artifacts that also tie in the idea that there could be another large body in our solar system which has some pretty interesting effects, not only on our planetary orbits, but possible other civilizations or beings that could be influencing our societies that are in our own solar system. So what I'm going to do is kind of start off with some of the modern research for a term that's called the search for Planet X. Now, this is kind of a modern term, Planet X, symbolically meaning X unknown, but 10 also beyond Pluto, the next planet out there found. And there's been a plethora of research over the last decade for the idea of another body in our solar system beyond Pluto, and research to suggest that we should still be looking out there beyond for another planet that does exist. So there has been a massive amount of research that's been done over the last, let's say, 20 years that kind of suggests the idea that there is another body in our solar system. This is a diagram that's actually from an Encyclopedia Britannica, and it shows from in the early 80s they actually had plotted that there's a dead star, a failed sun, way out in the solar system. And I'll get to that in a minute, the idea that our solar systems could possibly be binary. But here it is in even a 1983 diagram that shows that the orbit of our sun could also incorporate another failed sun that has a planet orbiting around it. Let me grab my laser pointer here too. Okay. This way I can point things out to you guys on the screen here. So this would be the idea of they're saying that there's another sun out there that exists. And so all throughout the modern research in the last 10 years, we've had things coming up in the news or new types of instrumentation being launched into space, infrared equipment, things that can penetrate the cold veils of space and do fine-tuning to get a better idea of what's out there. A lot of the satellites that they've released over the last few years have a very interesting connection or correlation to the idea of looking for large bodies in our solar system. This was one of the satellites that was deployed. It had its own mission to carry out some primary science, but for whatever reason couldn't do it, and so they re-engineered this to be a planet finder. And so there's a lot of these types of satellites and instrumentation in space to start to look for other types of bodies that we didn't quite recognize through the astronomical community. The whole idea that a planet could have an elliptical orbit, be on an orbit like this, was something kind of unknown to science. And it took quite a while, even till the time of when Hubble first imaged a planet around another sun. Now, this isn't our sun, and this isn't, our solar system, but this planet had an egg-shaped orbit around its star, and that was very interesting to astronomers because that was one of the first times they'd actually seen a planet that had an elliptical orbit, more of like an egg-shaped, elongated orbit. So many of the telescopes that we've launched have an unbelievable array of sensory on there to start to look for, what we would call extrasolar planets or failed suns, brown dwarfs. And basically what we're doing is launching satellites that are kept out in space at super cooled temperatures below freezing. And what they're able to do is penetrate these deep layers of dust and debris that we couldn't penetrate before, and now we get a much clearer infrared image of what's going on deep in space. This is a satellite that we had launched just recently called Certif. It was renamed to Spitzer after a famous, I believe it was an astronomer. So this is one of the latest packages that we have in space to detect, large bodies within our solar system, or very far out in the solar system as well, or not in the solar system, but just way far out in space. It's, we're talking about